I'm here with Thomas Vick of Vick Law, and we were kind of chatting about just current issues that we're seeing come across our desks this week. And it's kind of back to school time when we're recording this. And one of the questions that often comes up for college students who may be heading off to school for the first time is what, if anything, do parents and those young adults need to do from a legal perspective? And one of the things we come up with or answer is consider putting together a power of attorney for that student as they head off to school. And just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what you recommend, Thomas, and how you've seen that play out in your practice.
Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that. I think it is a good opportunity to kind of take a step back and talk about what planning needs an 18-year-old might have. You kind of think of estate planning as those that might be reaching the retirement age, maybe those who are kind of the middle aged and they need to set up a will and maybe name somebody as a guardian. But there's also a role for estate planning for 18-year-olds. When somebody goes to college, a child goes to college, what happens if the child that has an accident, unfortunately, and somebody needs to be there to make healthcare decisions at the hospital for that individual? That's one of the main reasons to at least have a healthcare power of attorney, so that the child's parents can actually talk to the doctors and help make decisions, if need be. So I think at least a healthcare power of attorney and perhaps even, a financial power of attorney might be wise to do. Seth, what are some reasons an individual might want to do a financial power of attorney for an 18-year-old?
It's a good question. And it's kind of an interesting thought that I had while you were chatting is I think a lot of us who have kids getting into that age, I'm a couple years away from that, but as we look at those questions, it's, well, I'm their parent, shouldn't I have right to access that information, right? And in that medical context, especially, you're starting to see more and more difficulty in getting access to or helping make decisions on behalf of that. And I think that will translate to some of the other financial things in terms of maybe you need to talk to the college financial office, financial aid, FAFSA, and those types of things. There may be some opportunities there where a financial power of attorney would be helpful to sort of give that formality of permission from the student to the parent to say, yeah, I still want my parents to help navigate some of these things and authorize the disclosure of that information to the parents so that they can work together with their child who is becoming a young adult, but may still be living at home and may still have that expectation. That magic 18 years of age, as we all know, doesn't mean the child is ready to be an adult, but in the eyes of the law, they start getting that independence, and the powers of attorney, both from the healthcare side and the financial side, can be very helpful to help those students navigate those questions that might come up and really just allow that free flow of information.
Yeah, and of course, the worst case scenario is, the child is in an accident and can't make decisions for himself or herself at all. And a power of attorney would prevent the need for having a guardianship in that case. But there are some things that are helpful between, the child being healthy and, the worst case scenario where a healthcare power of attorney or a financial power of attorney could really help out. It's also just a time to kind of give more responsibility to the 18-year-old that's going to college. Have a conversation about paying bills, make sure that the child has Social Security card, birth certificate, or at least copies of those things. What are some other things that you can think of to have a conversation about with your 18-year-old?
Well, again, that magic age starts to flip switches. One common scenario is the entitlement to view a student's grades. A lot of times I think parents expect that since ultimately they're paying tuition in some cases, They have the right to see what's going on, and they're surprised when the school says, well, I can't release those grade information to you, even though you're the parent. There's nothing else authorizing. We need to have the student sign a waiver form or whatever that is as an authorized representative. I think the other thing is just the increasing technicality of the world that we live in terms of when you have username and login to bank accounts, for example. It's difficult to get that access to monitor what's going on for a checkbook, for example, or something along those lines, if that student hasn't authorized you as a co-account owner or something like that. That can be a scenario where a power of attorney could be helpful as well and give you the ability to kind of see what's going on, ask some questions, not again to micromanage necessarily, but help with that transition. Again, I think that was an important point you brought up, Thomas, was it's good to have those conversations. You know, we're trying to give some freedom here and do some things, but we also can help you avoid some missteps, maybe by asking some good questions as to, you know, you're getting a little low in that checking account balance. We don't want to write some checks that may bounce and then you incur a bunch of different fees. Or that may be a great way to teach them not to do that again. I don't know, but those are some of the things I think that are helpful and give that authority to walk into a bank branch and say, hey, I need to deposit a check that Aunt Sally sent for the benefit of the child, but I need the child to sign it. Then I got to mail it up to the school and then wait for it to come back. With the power of attorney, you can sign and endorse that and put that into their account for them if that's a case as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so power of attorney is a good idea for even somebody as young as 18 years old going to college, just so that there's a little bit of, you know, the parent can help the child navigate through the decisions that the child now has to make on his or her own. And then, you know, it's kind of as a contingency plan as well if something unfortunate happens. What about, we're talking about 18-year-olds, but what are some options, at least one option, for planning for college and saving for college? You know, we talk a lot about estate planning. What are some options for planning for school?
Well, as you think about, you know, and this is obviously not our area of expertise, financial planners probably have a little bit more information that they can do and help out with this, but just things like the college choice programs. Indiana has a 529 plan. There's education savings accounts or ESAs. There are just a multitude of things that you could set up now and other people can contribute to, even if as the parent you're not in the position to contribute to those right now. And those are good ways to start building some of those funds as well. And you can even use them as sort of a way to help teach those students, you know, these are some investments and savings that we put together. Here's how the market works a little bit, how this can happen. And it's kind of a separate area. It doesn't have to kind of entwine your personal finances necessarily. So your student doesn't have to go through all of those things, but helps them learn some of those financial independence tools that are out there to watch that money grow over time.
Yeah, absolutely. The Indiana 529 plan is fantastic. Indiana gives us, you know, up to $1,000 of a credit per year. It's a state income tax credit equal to 20% of any contribution up to $1,000. So that can be really tax beneficial. And then one of the great attributes of a 529 plan is that it has tax deferred growth. So you can invest the money that you put into that, and then, you know, over the course of 10, 15, 18 years, the money can grow tax-free, and then it's tax-free withdrawals as well. So really, really beneficial, great planning mechanism for paying for college. You know, and I think one of the questions is, does it have to be an in-state school if it's an Indiana 529 plan? And that's not necessarily the case. You can use the money for out-of-state tuition as well. So really something to keep in mind. Maybe you don't quite have an 18-year-old yet, but you want to kind of invest for their college tuition, that's one great way to do it.
Yeah. And there's lots of opportunities to structure those at any time. So, call your financial advisor and kind of walk through what that is, or there's some great resources, I think, available on the Indiana's 529 plan online. Do a quick Google search for that, and that'll show up and give you some good opportunities to educate yourself a little bit and your student as to what's capable. I think one of the other benefits is it's just helpful to start introducing your young adult to the family attorney. And that can start at an early age and kind of take away that barrier to entry. There's sometimes some hesitation to talking with a lawyer, one because of cost and one because of access, it's in terms of they're busy a lot of times or whatever. So I think one of the things I would like to see happen in our profession is just increasing that access to the attorney when there's a question like this. I mean, it's the citizen's law. And so you want to know what your options are. And the earlier we can introduce students to that process of sort of leveraging those resources that are around them, giving them information upon which they can make good decisions and have their questions answered, I think is a good thing, and helps the practice and helps the families that are navigating this new era for their life.
I agree. And I've had some estate planning clients choose me just because I'm a younger attorney. I'm 32 years old now. They choose me because they want me to be there for their families in the coming decades as their family ages. And that's one of the great things about the practice of law in general, is that you get to know people and kind of get to be involved in their family life a little bit. And the earlier that we can do that, whether it's starting a power of attorney with an 18-year-old or what have you, I think would be wonderful for family.
Yeah, agreed. And frankly, those kind of documentation and things aren't more costly. Some of the estate planning can be a little bit complicated, but a power of attorney and those types of things is not as expensive as you might think it is. Of course, time and circumstance has to be taken into account on every particular case and situation, because everybody's unique, right? And we have a different scenario, but that shouldn't be a barrier to entry in terms of getting that introduction to that new role of this young adult, kind of taking his or her first strides into the next season of life for him. So I think that gives a quick overview of kind of that time. One thought I'd always had was, once you get the student as a freshman on campus, some of these issues will come to light in that first couple of months that they're on campus, and fall break's always a great time to kind of sit down and go through some of these, maybe even get those documents in place if you don't have them already while the student's back and can do the signing with the lawyer in their office. Just something to keep in mind as that kind of comes through and you've now had a little bit of experience and exposure to what college life is like, and some of those logistical challenges that you may have faced in the first couple of months in terms of navigating their financial side and maybe even their healthcare side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that would be a great idea.
So, hey, Tom, it's always good catching up with you. Appreciate the time today. Thanks for stopping by, and we will chat with you soon.
All righty. We'll see you then.